Welcome. This is Dr. Roger Layton, and I'm giving a talk on the subject of schools cannot visit museums now, so what next? Now, my talk was inspired by the call for papers for the 8th Courageous Conversations Conference, and one of the elements was submit a paper focusing on one of the following topics, and these topics are: one of them is the impact of COVID-19 on our society, including the impact of education. So this is not a theoretical topic. This is a practical topic to explore the interface between museums and schools and what we really need to do right now. So let's have a look at what is the problem statement first. The first part, museums depend heavily on access to schools. The first part is the foot count, in which you are measured as a museum for how many feet through the door. So if you're not getting those feet through the door, then that comes down on your measurement system. The other one is the income associated with this, and also that as a museum, you are providing these educational services and these outreach services as part of your work. And what are those people going to do if people don't visit and you can't visit them either? So these three are very important. And these three, all of them, relate to what a museum has to be doing in this age in order to interact with schools. Now, when we look at the pandemic itself, all we can see right now is the immediate and total loss of school visits, and also the loss of the outreach. We're hearing a new term coming up, the new normal. Schools as well have lost a lot of their academic year, and a paper recently published by the United Nations on the impact of COVID on education is saying we have to do what we can to avoid a generational catastrophe. And that's how serious it is. So with the academic catch-up, to what extent are they still interested in even having anything to do with museums? We may never have a return to the full ways. Consequently, museums have to rethink how they engage with schools. But the challenge from what we see is the lack of readiness in both of these sectors, in the basic education sector and in the museum sector, for digital engagement. It was all a nice to have, and as soon as the COVID pandemic became real, what we found is that it was too late. They haven't done the digital transformation they need to. And we are working in both of these sectors, in the school sector, providing digital transformation to schools, as well as in the museums, and providing digitization and digital engagement with the schools, with museums as well. And this is needed now. This is not something we can put a 5-year plan in or theorize it. This is a real serious problem that is occurring right now. I want to put this in the context of the model that we see for museums versus schools in relation to education. In both of them, we start with the CAPS curriculum, but in the school system, we work with the formal approach, much more formalized, textbooks, coming down to the schools and the educators, developed into lesson plans and hitting the learners. When we look at the heritage sector, including museums and libraries, we're rather looking at informal support, providing added support, either in terms of breadth or depth, or even elements outside of the curriculum. We take the position that the curriculum is not the be-all and end-all. It is just a statement that says what learners should know for each grade. It doesn't encompass the whole of knowledge. In fact, I think if I had my way, I'd like to throw away the curriculum and let kids choose what they want to do. That isn't really possible currently, but there are moves afoot to say, in this day and age, have we prepared our learners for exiting the school system correctly? And a lot of our work is on the area of what's called 21st century skills, new skills that children should know. So we developed a conceptual solution for this problem even before it came a problem. And I presented this at the SAMA conference in Grahamstown 2018. And we developed something as a conceptual study based upon years and years of working in repositories of something which we called the One Museum, a single repository for museum content. And originally our focus was on the collections, the objects, and making those available so that they could be accessible. But since then, our focus has been on other things. Let's see if we can put lesson plans up. Museums publish their information to the repository. Schools request information and they get back content. Then museums can get two other things back. Firstly, how is their information being used? And also getting links back through a citation system to ensure that schools are using trusted knowledge from the museums. And it's these flows which dictated our conceptual solution. We were building it throughout 2019, and as the pandemic hit, and we immediately lost access to all of our customers, all of the schools, all the museums we were dealing with, switched off for approximately 3 months. And then we thought we better finish building it. So here is what it looks like now. What we've got here is the implementation that was put up in May and which is being extended week by week. And I want to take you through a few of the elements of this. The first one is the type of content that we've got access to. And the ones of most interest at this point are stories. Stories, the type of stories that a tour guide in a museum will say when they are taking a school group through the museum. Let's capture those in digital form, make them available, even through videos. All of this falls under the heading of the virtual museum. Lessons, either formal or informal lessons in which museums can contribute knowledge over and above what they've got there, turning the objects into lessons. And I want to take that part a little bit further. Even publications, such as may be handed out at a museum, access to the experts, maybe even biographies of personnel. We find that a lot of people that we deal with are quite significantly influenced by their visits to museums when they were at school. To give you an example, one of the ladies we've been looking at for possible internship, and I asked her, how come you got into heritage and became an archaeologist? And she said, well, we had a school trip to Marapeng in the cradle of humankind, and as a result of that, I just loved it and decided this is what I wanted to do. And a little trigger like that can greatly influence what a child gets contact with and how they can find their position in life. So let's have a look at the first thing that we did was to encode the curriculum. So let's have a look at just one of these. History. So there's the history topic, grade 7, and the topic is cooperation and, I should say, conflict there on the frontiers of the Cape Colony in the early 19th century. And we've put a code in which doesn't exist in the curriculum called H074, where the 07 is the grade and 4 is the topic, that the fourth topic that is being covered, and most times that fourth topic will be covered in the fourth term. So here we can see the topics for grade 7, dealing with early African and especially the conflicts here. And there's a lot of museums that have got information about these early conflicts that took place, not only in the Cape Colony, but throughout South Africa and the various wars that took place. So when we're looking at these, we can now say a museum can contribute to this one by providing some lessons, research material that educators and learners can access. And this code, H074, is the link between the museum and the school. As an educator is trying to find material for their next class, they will look for H074 and they'll find information from every museum that is posting information on that particular topic. Now this is curriculum based. We've also looked at non-curriculum based activities driven by either keywords, such as the keyword of colonization, the keyword of slave, keyword of Mali. Any one of these can be a keyword that can find content there. So all of this fits into our model of the digital transformation of museums in general and museum education in particular. And our approach has been as follows. Firstly, to understand the curriculum, and this is what we expect museums to be able to do, understand the curriculum sufficient to be able to link your knowledge, your collections back into the curriculum. Where do you fit and what can you offer? Instead of just saying this is for grade 7, we can go right down to the topic level. Also understand the needs of 21st century skills. Now there's no time in this talk to talk about what these skills are, but this is something that we advocate a lot in our work. We're currently running an online course on lesson planning for museum education, which is an 8 lecture course covered over 4 weeks with practical work that tells museum educators how to prepare their material for the digital age, and part of that is the focus on 21st century skills. Then museum educators prepare and adapt materials, because instead of having the school visits, we're going to push the material out to the schools. And this is where publishing comes in. Publish. This case, publishing to our repository, being the an online repository or any other repository, your own website, anything. But the important thing is that the lesson itself or the content is framed in a way that it meets the requirements of education. Then to engage with the schools. What we find is that many schools do a particular subject, and a great deal of museums can engage with that subject. So instead of museums only engaging with the community of schools around them, what they can offer in knowledge is available and can benefit all of the schools in the country, including schools internationally as well that might be interested in some of the topics, just as those who are studying history, for example, in this country, would be interested in World War I, World War II, and might want to access information from the Imperial War Museum in London. Next thing, engage with learners. So once we start engaging with the schools, we can then start engaging with the learners, and perhaps can even start looking at real-world issues relating to these. So that is what we see as the digital transformation of museum education, and our program of adaptation of the museum is taking this form. All of this has been developed since the pandemic started. We had ideas on this and we were working very slowly with museums. Now we're working as fast as we can. So our vision. This one museum can bridge the gap between the museums and the schools, and that gap's been caused by the pandemic. What was a nice relationship where schools would come and visit museums no longer there. That gap has been created. Museums themselves don't need any infrastructure, and except to be able to prepare their content for uploading. They don't even need a website. Schools access content beyond the textbook, and our focus currently is on these particular topics. I myself am working on the mathematics side. My specialty area is mathematics education, and one of my projects is the creation of a museum of mathematics, which is very conceptual in nature, as mathematics is. But of course history is covered by many, and also life sciences by a number, and the visual arts by a number of the galleries. So what we've done is started to map the CAPS subjects against the potential museums that can provide content for them. So where next? Well, COVID-19 is here to stay for some time. Our guess is perhaps till the end of next year, the education system and the museum system is going to be compromised in some way. And there might never be a return to the previous normal. This new normal of online meetings, online conferences such as this one, actually are better. Why do we need to go back to the old way? Why not benefit from this digital revolution? Our process right now, we are gathering content as quickly as we can, encoding it and putting it in to the One Museum. Now this process has been slow, but it's accelerating as we've got museums who are committing to providing content, and sometimes lots of content, far more than they could ever publish on their website or anywhere else, and quite excited about the ability to distribute that content very widely. So I hope that this has been of interest to you, and I look forward to any engagement with you. My email address was on the front, on the first slide. I will just perhaps provide it for you again, just in case. Roger, and it's Roger at RL, my two initials, .co.za. And if you're interested in putting some of your content up, we can advise you, and if you'd like to come on our course for how to create lessons for online digital consumption, be very happy to have you there as well. Thank you very much.